Hello. We have 3 people in our house today. Wait, hang on.
And a dog.
I'm trying to figure out how to. There we go.
And Kitty.
There's Jess. And I have really bad morning hair because I'm tired. This is weird being in person with each other.
It is.
It's very strange. We're all here at my house today, which is very fun. And we are going to talk today about crazy stuff that's happening in real estate right now, right? So crazy stuff is happening. Wait, hang on. I gotta fix my hair. It's really bad. Okay, so I had a situation at the end of the week last week where I have a listing on the market, and it's so weird. Like I don't know who to look at. Normally I look at you guys on the camera. So I had a situation last week where I have a listing on the market, and we were actually supposed to close today, and they stopped the loan in underwriting. The buyer is a 19-and-a-half-year physician with a big corporate healthcare company here in Denver, and they would not let her proceed with her loan until she gave written proof to her employer that she'd had both of her vaccinations.
So before everybody gets on the vaccine kick, this is not what this is about. Number one, this was not a requirement of employment until last Thursday. So for all we know, she has had her vaccination and just hasn't submitted proof to her employer because it was not a condition of employment until last week. So let's get all the facts on the table and let's recognize this is not a pro or anti-vax conversation, please. And thank you.
Yeah, like not at all. We don't even want to talk about this.
This is just something that's happening in the real estate space that we need to talk about.
But this is freaking me out because this could become a big thing. Like, So let's assume that this particular buyer, right? She's been a physician for almost 20 years. She's been with this company for 19-and-a-half years. Probably she's vaccinated, right? Like that's what we have to assume. But then there are people out there, again, we're not going into the politics of this, but there are lots of people out there who don't want to get vaccinated, right? So what happens now to all of those people if this becomes a condition of their employment? Are they unemployed?
Mm-hmm. I mean, I look at it no differently than a drug test. Like your employer can say you have to have a drug test and it has to be clean to be employed here. Your employer, whether you like it or not, can absolutely mandate you be TB free and you have to be drug free. They can absolutely begin to mandate that you have to be vaccinated, and it's a condition of your employment. So if you don't want to do that, then you don't have a job.
Yeah, well, a friend of mine has a brother who's a high level Walmart manager, and apparently he walked into his job at Walmart on Friday and they told him don't come back until you have both of your vaccines. So like, what if that guy was in the middle of purchasing a home at this point in time, right? Like he doesn't get a loan because his employer won't verify employment. So like, regardless of the politics, I definitely think that this is a real thing that could start to affect us.
Well, it's affecting a deal currently
Already.
Yeah. And I think that as real estate agents who try to stay ahead of problems, this is probably another notch that we're going to have to check off the box at some point and have that conversation. And it's not a HIPAA violation. HIPAA protects you from your physician and nurses and medical professionals from talking about your personal information with anyone else. It does not stop anyone else from saying, hey, Lindsay, have you been vaccinated? I did not just violate HIPAA.
And you can't sue your employer, which a bunch of people said, go sue your employer because it's a condition of your employment, just like,
a drug test
or not being a felon or anything else that is a condition of your employment at the job that you work at. So like,
do we know if it's just an overlay with one investor lender or if it's going to be like an across the board situation?
This has nothing to do with the lender. It's the employer is requiring it
in order to give the employment verification.
Correct. So this is Fannie Mae. So this is a government-backed loan, and Fannie Mae and Freddie both require a written verification of employment, and her employer will not give the written verification of employment until she has proven that she's had both vaccine shots and essentially is employed.
Okay. So my mind always goes to what's the workaround, right? Like, so right now you have to have a written statement of employment. why can't they just call up and talk to anyone that works there to say, hey, do you know so-and-so? Are they at work today?
I think because it's a Fannie Mae guideline.
Well, and also this is a massive medical health system here in our area, and they have like a whole HR process in order to do it. I mean, I get what you're saying, but I think every employer is probably going to handle it differently now.
I also think that, like, in this particular case, her employer made national news the same day for saying if you don't have both of your vaccines, you're unemployed as of October 1st.
And if
So
you
they're extra sensitive, right? Because they definitely think she's not going to have a job in 2 months, right?
Same thing, Denver, the city and county of Denver just required today or yesterday maybe, that all of their city employees, including teachers, police officers, etc. So this is going to become a very real thing, at least here where we're at. And I would predict and assume it's going to become a very real thing across the nation.
Oh, I think so for sure. So Ed, who's watching, says, we don't require verifications from the employer. My only concern is the continuance of income. But Ed, correct me if I'm wrong, you're like a portfolio guy, right? So you aren't underwriting Fannie and Freddie, because as far as I know, a written VOE, so verification of employment, is a Fannie Freddie condition. You cannot close a loan without it. Yeah, but I mean, this is going to be can you even imagine being the loan officer who has to call people and tell them, sorry, you're homeless, you can't buy a house because you're not vaccinated? And again, nothing to do with the politics or the weird hot buttonness that this vaccine is, but this is a real thing.
Well, what's going to happen now it's a real possibility that everybody at the same time that hasn't gotten one is going to have to get one if they want to continue employment. So what if they run out? What if they can't get them in time? I
had not even thought about that. That's interesting.
Well, in your case, what if she hasn't been vaccinated, and does she have to wait
it takes a month. That's my other thing,
unless
right?
She gets the Johnson & Johnson, which is one and done.
But I thought they pulled the Johnson & Johnson off the market.
No, they just issued a warning.
They issued it. Oh, interesting.
I think it's back on. Anyways, moral of the story is there's just a lot of questions, and it's just another thing that we need to be cognizant of. I mean, that's just the reality of it.
But so how do you even, I think it's too early. You can't start having this conversation with people. No one is going to go, have you met your employment condition of being vaccinated in order to get your home loan?
Well, that might be a question the lenders are now asking at application, or maybe they should be asking at application.
If the lenders could take this off our plate, that'd be so cool.
That'd be wonderful.
Is there anything that you're not telling us about why you wouldn't qualify for? It's really crazy, and I totally get why people are going to get really upset about this, because healthcare and your personal healthcare really shouldn't have anything to do with your qualification to buy a home. But if it is a condition of your employment, you don't have a job if you don't do it, right? So this is crazy.
I mean, this is the way you get forced to comply, right? Unfortunately.
I think everyone's going to end up getting this vaccine anyways. Whether or not people want to hear that, it's coming down the pike for everybody. And if more employers by the day are calling it required, but there will be people. So I know 3 people here in Denver right now, in real life, who are quitting their jobs or are saying, go ahead and fire me, because they're not going to get it. So if those 3 people were your clients and they were trying to buy a house, now you have 3 people that can't qualify because of a shot.
And I wonder how long
it's really hard not to have an opinion.
I wonder how long it's going to take for VA to mandate it for all military.
I'm pretty sure it's already a requirement. I'm pretty sure.
I'll have to ask some of my clients.
So Ed says, this seems like a shit show. Yeah, I mean, to say the least.
Yeah, Ed, go ahead and work that into your rotation now. It's 2 months bank statements, a copy of your COVID test, all of that fun stuff now is going to be on your list.
Okay, guys, I'm going to be super clear. We are not having a political debate right now, but so Catherine says they cannot make you get it.
No, they can't, but they can make it a condition of your employment, which means that you either
get it or you're
unemployed. And I think that the bigger employers, especially in the medical space, they're going to require it, you guys. Yeah. Just like they can tell you can't work here if you do cocaine. It's the same thing.
No hookers and blow.
Whatever.
You got to get a shot.
If Keller starts to require it, I guess I'll open my own brokerage. So that's where we're at.
Yeah, I mean,
Can I come to McKinsey
crazy.
Jackson?
Sure. Yeah.
so Dana says test required for what? I came in late. So Dana, we are talking about the fact that we had a real life situation happen on Friday where I had a listing on the market. It's under contract. A buyer is supposed to close on it today, and she works for a healthcare company, and her healthcare company is requiring that she submit proof of the fact that she's had both of her COVID vaccinations. Otherwise, they will not release her verification of employment. So we're talking about the fact that this could be coming down the pike for agents and buyers and lenders, that if your employer is starting to require this as a condition of your employment, it could completely screw up your loan and you might not get a house if you aren't vaccinated and that's a condition of your employment. They gave her, the thing that I don't really understand in this particular situation is that her employer is saying you have to have it by the 1st of October and it's August. So
Well,
like,
that's giving everybody enough
giving them
time
enough
to
time.
get
but so then why won't they release her VOE?
because they can't guarantee that
She'll
her
get it in that
long-term
time.
employment will be guaranteed past October 1st. But my understanding of verification of employment is just you are employed
today.
Right.
in this moment.
Mhm.
So I don't get it. It's real hard.
I'm
just
just
right
gonna be
now.
quiet.
Yeah, it is. It's okay. So Dana, so good grief. She should sue. She's currently employed. She can't sue because it's a condition of her employment. Like you can't do hookers and blow while you're employed. You can't do drugs in the job bathroom, right? Like you're not supposed to be having sex with your coworkers at work. Like,
You can't wear spaghetti straps. Like
yeah, you're not,
All the reasons why we're self-employed.
you have to
Yeah.
wear your
It's
uniform.
especially the hookers and blow.
I know.
I know, right? All of those things, you can't be a felon. You can't, if you have a CDL driver's license, you can't, have a terrible driving record if you're going to drive a company truck. Like all these things are conditions of your employment. So her employer is saying this is a condition of your employment. And it is.
And they're allowed to
gross.
do it. It's a private employer. You don't like it, you don't have to work here. Especially here in Colorado, it's an at-will state. Hi, husband Josh.
Hi, Joshy. Yeah, is right. Because I don't know how this is going to go. And my thing is, okay, so I just light bulb in my own brain just right now this second. I feel like if we're working with buyers and maybe even as listing agents, we should be asking them to order the VOE right away. Because what was about to come out
With the
of
appraisal.
yeah, right. Because what was about to come out of my mouth was what freaks me out is they don't typically verify employment until right before closing, which is why this got stuck 72 hours before closing.
But that's not true in your case, though, because the employer themselves did not require this until last Thursday. It wasn't. So if you had verified the employment Wednesday, this would have been a non-issue. But because they required it effective Thursday, and the lender required the VOE within 72 hours of closing, that's what your hiccup was. It's because the company policy changed from Wednesday to Thursday.
Okay, well, I was going to say maybe we should say order the VOE right away, but you're right.
Yeah.
If they change their policy,
It's
it
changing
doesn't
the
matter.
policy.
Well, and that was an overlay that was happening with Fannie and Freddie and even conventional loans with most of the big servicers during the COVID lockdown and the height of the COVID stuff last year. They were all requiring a secondary verification of employment, like literally day of closing, because they were trying to verify that that person hadn't lost their job due to COVID. So, I mean, this is one of those things that like could come up 5 minutes before closing. But I don't know. I mean, at this point, we're just having the conversation. I don't know what we do about it.
Or if it's going to be an issue in the future, we don't know yet for everybody. I don't know if there's going to be a trickle down or if anybody else across the country's run into this yet.
So Dana says, it's so sad she's employed at the time of the request for verification of employment. Her future doesn't seem relevant on the employer side. But you have to remember that we are in this environment now where, I don't know the statistics, but millions of people lost jobs,
Right.
left jobs, whatever during COVID. And we had this giant bottleneck where all the lenders and servicers went, whoa, additional overlays, additional requirements, additional stuff. Like we want to make sure that we're not artificially allowing another 2007 to happen by allowing all these people to get loans and then they're going to lose their job and not be able to pay their loans in the long-term future. So, I mean, you're correct. She's employed today. The other thing that happens is all of those loans get sold on the secondary market, right? So like a lot of the overlays, and which an overlay is a requirement, a lot of the overlays that we see being implemented on loans aren't actually for the person who's underwriting the loan. So like, let's say, I don't know, PRMG, they're a huge underwriter here in Colorado. Like, let's say Paramount Residential Mortgage Group is who is initially funding my loan for me to get to the closing table. PRMG is going to take that loan and resell it to Chase, Wells Fargo, Bank of America, whoever that is, because they're not a servicer. They don't keep the loan long term. So the problem is PRMG doesn't really care about half of these overlays. PRMG is trying to make sure that the package of this loan is wrapped up nice and tight with a bow on it so they can sell it to Wells Fargo or Chase or whoever gets that loan on the backside, because they don't service it long term. So they've got to prepare it to sell. And if there's any question that in another 30 days from the time that they close the loan that she's not employed, they can't sell it.
Yeah.
That's the problem.
So here's what I see. So I deal primarily in VA stuff. So on a VA loan, you have to have an ETS date. That's your date that you're supposed to be separated from the military. It has to be a year or more out from closing, basically. So time of closing, you have to be able to say that you're still going to be in the military a year after you close for the lender, or you have to have the ability to re-up or, add another 5 years, 4 years, whatever to your contract. So what's to stop lenders from now requiring that on all loans? Like, hey, you have to sign something saying that you're going to be employed next year.
Well, they're scared. I mean, they're scared for two reasons, right? They're scared that they're not going to be able to sell it and they're going to get stuck servicing the loan, which is a huge problem.
Yeah.
Or they're scared that the ultimate servicer isn't going to be like that the loan is going to default.
Right.
Because we have so much upheaval and craziness happening right now with employment and jobs. And, if we're going into a second round of lockdowns or not, if that happens, what happens to people in their jobs? Like, they're being more conservative than we've ever seen them be in the history of loans right now.
I would say the workaround for us just currently, like just a quick, is if you know that your client is employed by a healthcare system, it's probably in our best interest to say, hey, with the new vaccination statuses starting to become mandated, is it a requirement of your employer to have the COVID vaccine? Because that could potentially become an issue in a couple of weeks when we get to your verification of employment. Very simple, very to the point. It's very neutral. It's not giving an opinion on anything. It's just asking a question like, hey, you're a physician. Is there a possibility that your employer is mandating the vaccine and that could potentially come down the pipe in the next couple of weeks? And how do we deal with that up front then? That's it. I mean, I think at the end of the day, we could talk about this topic all day long for a multitude of reasons. It's just another reminder that we are in a very different space in the real estate business. And whether we like it or not, our health status is going to begin to affect our ability to maintain employment, to get loans. And that's all that we're just trying to give a friendly FYI to our colleagues that this is something that is becoming a very real, intangible side effect of COVID.
Yeah. It might not affect you, but just in case it does, might as well make sure.
Yeah. Catherine says being proactive is always great. I totally agree with that. You just have to remember, like in this space, this has nothing to do with politics or people's beliefs about this vaccine or the pandemic in general. It's just truly, this could be a lending condition. You should be aware.
And I operate my entire business around what if and what might be and what problems can I deal with up front. And this to me is just another potential issue we could have. So to have the conversation ahead of time will save hopefully a lot of us some headache on the backside. That's literally all this conversation really is today. Although my facial expressions say otherwise.
I mean, when I got that phone call, it was absolutely wild. The buyer's agent was like, so I have to tell you this thing and it's really weird. And I was so shocked. I couldn't even form an opinion. So absolutely crazy pants. All right. We're going to shift gears and talk about what's happening in the market right now. Lead us off.
Why me?
Because you have the statistic about what showings are doing.
So we saw a massive increase right after the 4th of July hit, and we went right back into our 2021 chaos. And then this last weekend, it felt like, holy shit, where the hell did everyone go? So we were down 62% in the Denver market for showings this weekend.
And what could be causing that?
Well, we go back to school next Monday. So I think everyone's just sucking up the last couple of weeks of summer break here, specifically in the county that I primarily serve. I didn't show any houses this weekend. I didn't even hear from any buyers this weekend. I think
I did. I was out showing and I grabbed a house, first house in that we saw for my buyers at list price. No appraisal gap, no inspection clauses. So good time to get your buyers out there for sure, right? Like you have to, I feel like that's the mark of an agent that really knows their business.
Yeah.
You have to know how to shift gears. You need to know when is listing season and when is buying season. And it is prime buying season right now because listings are down 62% in traffic.
Yeah. I will say Colorado Springs kids went back to school today. A lot of them. Yeah. So that would be a pretty easy explanation as to why showings were down a ton this past weekend. And I think, families might be still on vacation or trying to get that last vacay in before school started. So that could be, the cause of that. But I think it'll pick right back up like it always does.
Agreed.
But it's important that your market, and this is cyclical. Like every year this happens, right? Every year kids go back to school. Well, hypothetically.
Well, I also feel like the market this year has been really and truly more so than anything we've ever seen. Like it's really like a 7-day cycle right now. Like what we say today may not be what we're talking about next Tuesday. And I don't think I've ever experienced a market where I just feel constant whiplash the way that we do this year.
Yeah.
Does you guys feel that way?
Well, yeah, because right now I don't even know. I think I have 3 listings on the market right now with like 4 coming in the next 7 days. And like, I don't want to list them. Like I texted her yesterday and I was like, I don't want to, like, because I know that my sellers are going to be really upset when they don't have an offer that's $100 million over asking in 6 hours. And when they don't get 67 million offers, and for the love of God, because it's horrible and it means the sky is falling, we sit on the market for 2 weeks.
Oh my God. What happened? Did you have a birthday party?
Does anybody know what the average days on market in a balanced market is supposed to be?
30 days.
30 to 45 days, right? So 2 weeks.
Yes, we passed.
Yes.
My friends are geniuses. So yeah, 30 to 45 days is the normal time that a listing should sit on market. Like when the market is balanced. It's funny to me though, because like during the recession, they could for 6 months to a year. Mm-hmm. And I didn't feel as stressed out about that as I do right now when they're sitting for 2 weeks because they knew, right? Like they knew, the public knew at that point in time that their listing was going to sit a while. Right now, the news is still telling them that if you're on market longer than 24 hours, there's a problem, right?
Well, your realtor's not doing their job, right?
Yeah.
The neighbors are like, why isn't your house sold? We sold our house in 8 hours.
Yeah. We had somebody come over to the house this weekend for a notary. And the first thing she said was, did you see the house that's been on the market since Thursday? And I was like,
ew,
it's Saturday.
What's wrong with it?
And they're not looking at offers till Monday. So yeah, like it's okay for it to sit for a couple days, everybody. And that's one of the things like that I love about our show is like, we're always trying to stay ahead of what's happening. Like the news is a month behind us. Like,
yeah,
we're in it.
Yeah.
These are the hardest listing presentations in the entire universe to go on for me though, because you need to be positive and convey that you're going to sell their property. And especially if you're competing against other listing agents who have zero idea what's going on, which is 99% of the case, the numbers say, right? Like they're going to go in there and just buy the listing and tell them they're going to be under contract in 2 days with 1 million offers and $100,000 over list price. So it's really, really hard to like be positive and confident, but still give them the data and the statistics and say, hey guys, this is what's happening right now. We're down 62% in showings. You need to be ready for the fact that it could sit 2 weeks to a month. Like that's hard.
And you need to be prepared for the fact that like we might get one really great offer and that's okay. Like This
Yeah.
mentality that we have that a seller needs 20 offers is crazy to me. You need one really great offer that's going to close. And when we get into these multiple offer situations, that's where we see the fallout. We don't really see the fallout on one buyer who really wants this house and who has done everything they can and didn't feel like they had to give everything away to get this house.
Or that they had to crazy overpay for it.
Exactly.
Usually when they crazy overpay for it, then they have that buyer's remorse like a day or two later, and they're like, you know what? I don't know. I'm gonna find some reason to back out. It'll probably be inspection.
Yeah.
When I ask for light bulbs and shit.
And then as a buyer's agent, guys, we've talked about this before on the show in the last couple of weeks. For the love of God, know what's going on in your market. Know if showings are down. Like, okay, if you have a centralized showing service like a Showing Time, CSS doesn't exist anymore, Showingly, whatever. Did you know that you can go into Showing Time and act like you're pretending to schedule a showing, and it will show you how full their showing calendar is for the weekend? And that will give you an idea of like whether they have every slot filled and there's 400 people seeing it and that property is really hot, or if they have only 5 showings this weekend. And even if you can't reach the listing agent, that's going to give you a good indication on what their traffic and offer situation is going to be like. Because we all keep seeing buyer's agents when there's no offers on the table come in hot, like it's March, and they're swinging in with $50,000 above list, full appraisal gaps, and I love that for my sellers all day long, but like you just overpaid. This is where the distinction comes into me. Okay. If the market is really saying that property is worth $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 above list because the offers are carrying it up there, that's not overpaying. If there are no other offers on the table, or there's one at list price and you're going in $50,000, $60,000, $70,000 above asking just because you want to win the property, that's overpaying, right? So you need to know what's going on in your market. I know it's tough to get a hold of these listing agents. You've got to find other ways to figure out how busy it is over there.
What time is it? Before I say something, I need to know what time it is.
It's
because my
10:27.
Okay. My sellers have already accepted the contracts.
Okay.
So this weekend, don't tell anybody. I didn't have a lot of showings on my listing. And so I may or may not have filled the spots on Showing Time with my own to make it look like it was a little busier than it might have been.
Don't do that. Or do that because that's really smart. I'm actually not 100%.
I'm actually
sure.
sitting here going,
That's really smart.
I mean, technically,
we have done that for each other.
I did have a
sometimes.
showing or two of my own. Yes.
We have definitely done that for each other sometimes. We've definitely been like, can you schedule a showing and go look at my house and give me feedback? We've all done that for each other.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah.
that's how you counteract, Lindsay, looking at all of your
Damn it.
showing stats.
No, you need to not I said, I picked up a house yesterday, first house we saw in and out for my clients at list price, and 0 inspection stuff, appraisal stuff, none of that, because I knew what was going on and I knew that they didn't have 5 million offers. Now, it could have been an asshole and written it $50,000 above. My clients would have been overpaying and I would have been really upset with myself.
Right.
Yep.
So
The market changes this fast.
are the houses that's happening to the ones that are like the nicest ones on the market, or are they the ones that are maybe not shown the best possible way?
No,
Or
this
are they
was like level 27 cute. It was adorable. And they did have
That's pretty cute.
they did have 3 other offers and they were all under list.
what?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's interesting.
Mhm. And I'm getting my ass kicked with my listings right now. Like I can't sell a listing to save my life right now.
I'm not even listening to you right now because
They're-
you're giving me anxiety.
Stressing me out. And I'm underpricing by like 20 grand. Like I'm like, okay, this is what I think it's actually worth before offers hit. Let's drop the price by 20 grand. And I'm still not catching offers. So it's kind of tough out there right now. It's buying season. Please come buy my listings.
But I feel like it's only like this for like 2 weeks, and then
Yeah.
it goes back to being crazy again. And it's not like it's bad. It's just houses are selling for what they should be selling for instead of going way
Exactly.
over because there's less buyers in the market right now because everybody's buying back to school clothes or whatever, something, that's probably what's happening.
I also wonder how many agents have discouraged people from buying
Right.
currently because they're saying like, you don't have money. You don't have money for an appraisal gap. You don't have this. You don't have that.
Ding.
And so I'm beginning to wonder, and maybe this is like a really great poll that we can maybe do, like how many agents are genuinely discouraging buyers from buying, and how many of those buyers have decided to get out of the market and go rent or renew their lease because they feel so defeated by what their agent is saying to them. And let me be very clear, regardless of what kind of market you're in, you can buy. It might be difficult. It might be stressful. You can always buy a house. It's just, you got to have the right people on your team.
Right. So I was talking to my lender yesterday, one of my lenders, and we were talking about how it seems like there are these fallacies out there that, like, for some reason, you shouldn't be buying a house right now.
Dave Ramsey actually just tweeted, do not buy a house this morning. Do not buy a
Genius.
house, Dave Ramsey.
The market's gonna crash.
No, that's not what he said. He said you shouldn't buy a house unless you can pay cash for it.
Well,
Because
yeah.
you're going to, well, that's his whole
But
life.
anyways, now all of Dave Ramsey's millions of followers,
Right,
have
and you're
just
gonna
heard,
see it.
Don't buy a house.
And they're all going to post that shit on Facebook, by the way. Because that's what they're conditioned to do. What I was seeing was that these people are going to now.
They can't buy anyways because they're conservative fucking radicals and they don't have their vaccines and they're going to get stuck in underwriting. There
Well,
we
they
go.
better have cash.
Woo!
Otherwise, they're going to have
We
have
have stereotypes coming out the yin yang right now. And
Yeah.
I said the F word. Sorry, Facebook.
they're going to have to buy in cash. Otherwise, they're going to have an employment verification issue. But
Maybe
no,
that's what he meant.
maybe.
Yeah.
But no, I think that if you're telling your clients not to buy a house right now, what is going to happen with interest rates in a few months? They're already talking about them creeping up. Yesterday was not awesome interest rate rise. So we're starting to see a little creep up. So whether or not they buy a house now at whatever your interest rate is now, or they buy the same house for the exact same amount of money in a few months, but at a higher interest rate, they're going to be paying more for it.
Yeah.
A lot more.
Catherine says, so dumb. Pay $30,000 over asking today or pay $30,000 or $60,000 over asking next year.
Right. At a higher interest rate.
Right.
Because this is not sustainable. And statistically, it's not going to stay like this. Something will happen. Something's going to change. And yeah, I mean, the best time to buy a house is when, everybody?
5 years ago.
5 years ago.
Second best time?
Today.
Now.
Yes.
Mhm.
No, it's it really upsets me on like an inappropriate level when I go into all these big national Facebook groups, which we take 90% of our topic ideas for our show from, because that's what
You guys are
the
talking about.
population of agents, the giant population of agents across the United States is talking about. But like, it really upsets me on like a very inappropriate level when I see agents going, well, I told my buyers not to buy because it's going to crash. Or my buyers want to pay $60,000 over asking on this house. And I'm not going to write the offer because I think it's gross because the market's going to crash. Like,
Who are you? It is not
doing?
your responsibility to make decisions for your buyers. It is your responsibility to guide them. But you don't get to tell them. I just find it so irresponsible.
it's inappropriate ethically
It's so
to transfer
irresponsible.
your
beliefs.
risk level, right, emotionally to your buyers. Like, your buyers get to make their own choice. Now you need to advise them about stuff that's going on, but you shouldn't be saying, okay, this is mind-blowingly stupid to me. You shouldn't be saying to them, don't buy right now because the market's going to crash. You should be calling every human you know on the phone right now and going, get out right now and buy.
Mhm.
Because this
Buy
is the
something. Buy an
biggest
investment
window.
property. Buy a condo. Buy a rental. Buy a VRBO. Buy.
Yeah.
Buy when it's low, which we're down 62% right now. Get out there and buy.
You're never going to get a good deal, or at least feel like you're getting a good deal, but at least now you're going to get under contract and you're going to feel decent about it, right? Like, you're not going to be getting houses for 30, 40 grand under asking,
I did
but
actually.
unless you're Lindsay's clients, apparently. But you're going
And
to
then they
still be
still
getting under
terminated.
contract without having to crazy overpay for it. Of course they did.
I'm in a mood today.
I was
You
just going
are.
to say, Lindsay, you
She's not a
are
little
very
rant.
feisty this morning.
She is
I've
a little
been
sassy.
abused by people for the last week. I'm getting yelled at about why things aren't selling, and then the things that I do get under contract, they're terminating on. It's like,
I think we have kind of a perfect storm in Colorado Springs right now because we're getting a ton of listings hitting the market. Like, I personally have almost tripled my listing business for the next 2 weeks, and my buyers are kind of staying the same. So now we have kind of the perfect storm of the same amount of buyers or maybe a little fewer buyers and like 3 times the listings. Okay, so now they have some choices. So now you're really got to make sure your house looks awesome and you're marketing the crap out of it, or you're not going to get any showings, or your house is going to sell under asking price.
And I
It's
do-
gonna sit for 2 weeks.
I feel like that is a really interesting point too that we haven't talked about yet. I feel like the phone's going to start ringing for everyone, because I think that sellers are starting to feel that FOMO where they're like, well, man, I missed out on the height of the market. I better sell right now. So I do think that you're going to start to see more inventory coming
Mhm.
on the market for sure.
Yep. I agree.
Jess had an interesting situation this week.
So while we're on the topic,
This is why I'm feisty, because it's been the
Mhm.
weirdest week of all time.
So while we're on the topic of Facebook groups, and since so many of you are in these realtor Facebook groups, last week I made a comment in a national Facebook group in regards to
An iBuyer,
iBuyer, flat fee real estate companies. My commentary was not derogatory. It was not negative. It was a factual statement obtained from their commercials. They screenshotted, they have somebody in these groups watching. They screenshotted my response and sent it to my broker and threatened me with an ethics complaint. So the moral of the story is be careful with what you say in these Facebook groups, because these companies have lots and lots of dollars behind them and attorneys and everything else. And even though I didn't say anything wrong, it's not worth the headache of dealing with it on the other side. So be cognizant of what you're saying.
They're NAR members and board members now, right? These iBuyer companies.
Yeah.
So the Big Z, the OD, and all the rest of them, they're
bound to the same guidelines we are now.
and we are bound to the guideline of not disparaging our fellow brokers.
I didn't disparage them.
You are allowed to say factual information.
That's what I said. I was like, she just said the truth.
Well, that means that they're scared.
I don't even think it's that they're scared. I think it's that they have an entire probably
Legal
team. Well, probably team of people sitting there monitoring these Facebook groups, and then an entire legal team
Mhm.
at their disposal to go and make sure nobody's saying anything about
Mhm.
them.
Um,
I kind of wish I had that.
well, I think we all need that. I mean, let's be honest.
I mean,
us
I
want to do
wonder
a
if
full
my
legal
broker
team.
is watching this right now.
I know.
Jessica, shut
When you say the
fuck
F word on a
up.
Facebook Live, you need a legal team. That's where we're at.
I feel
We
bad
do have
for
one.
Drew.
Is Drew watching?
Probably. She has to stay ahead of our shit. So
Yeah, so you have to be pretty careful with that. That's scary. They could have filed an ethics complaint against her for that, right? I don't know how that would have gone.
I don't know. The real ethics complaint is his production. So there's that.
Ooh. That's getting feisty.
I find that really interesting though. Like how are we not allowed to tell the truth?
Yeah.
Because they're
what's
trying to
happening?
hide fees and all of that. They don't want agents talking and colluding and everybody knowing what they're doing.
But they charge fees. We charge commission. Isn't there like a difference?
Well,
No,
I mean,
it's a real question that I have.
if you guys don't know, I'm not talking to you two. If the people
Yeah.
that are watching, like if our public doesn't know, I mean, there's a lot of stuff coming, guys. Like there's some scary shit that's out there that's coming. NAR and the Department of Justice had been negotiating a settlement about what the Department of Justice felt was inappropriate with commission fixing in the real estate business, and they'd been talking to each other about that for like about a year, and then the DOJ pulled out of that settlement, and the DOJ last week produced a really, really public statement saying that they feel that the fees that real estate agents charge in the United States are higher than anywhere else in the world. They feel that the public isn't disclosed to on why we charge those fees, and they feel like there's a term for it. It's like commission stringing or something like that. But basically they feel like we make it so that the buy side and the listing side are contingent upon each other, and you only get a reduction in fees if you do both with one agent. And so we're tying them with each other, and it's inappropriate. So like the Department of Justice is coming against us now. NAR is trying to do the best that they can to negotiate with them, but they pulled out of it and it's not working. So they also, and this happened last year, they made it legal to disclose buyer's agency fees, right? So if you're looking on Zillow, it will be public and printed in the future, that the buyer's agent is making a whatever, like a certain percentage commission, which equals a certain amount of dollars so that the buyer can see the fees transparently. So, I mean, that stuff it doesn't scare me. Like, I feel like consumers are not dumb and they know what real estate agents are getting paid. However, I do feel like that's going to cause a lot of buyers to start circumventing their buyer's agent and going directly to the listing agent. Like, I think if this affects anyone, it's going to affect buyer's agency. Because if you can see online, okay, my buyer's agent is making $15,000 off of this deal, why wouldn't you just go to the listing agent and go, hey, reduce the price for me by $15,000?
But that already happens. I mean, how many times do we all get phone calls that say, I saw your listing at ABC and I'm calling, I just decided to go directly to the listing agent because I want to get a price reduction. And we all go, cool.
Well, I mean, I think it's going to start happening more.
Sure. I guess I'm not really that concerned about it either.
I'm not that concerned about it either, but it's stuff that we need to know about, right? Like stuff that's coming. So, I mean, our commissions are under attack
every day.
Right.
Well,
And honestly, I'm more concerned about us as real estate agents. Like we do it to each other. Like there was a post in a Facebook group the other day that I was tagged in, and a agent was asking for a referral in the Denver area for about $200,000 under our average sales price. So a very difficult property to find to begin with. He wanted a 30% referral fee. Why? Like, for making a Facebook post? Why do we do this to each other? That's the biggest issue in our industry, is one another. That's my belief system and has been for a long time now.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. The iBuyers haven't scared me.
Wow.
And you know why they don't scare me? Because I've been in the business long enough to know that this is the point in the business right now where we have no value. Because literally, like, my shoe could put a house on the market right now. And except for me, because apparently I can't sell my listings. So I guess I suck at my job. But anyone, reasonably speaking, right, over the last 18 months has been able to put a house on the market and sell it. So we don't have a lot of perceived value from the public. But when the market gets harder, and like I said earlier, houses are sitting for 6 months to a year, they will pay you whatever you want. You can ask for 1,000,000%, and they will pay you to help them sell their property because they can't and they need you. So you just have to stay in through this squish, and you have to get better at, and we've talked about this. I feel like if you need help articulating your value, you should go back and listen to some of our past shows. But your value right now to your clients is probably not price. It's not money, which is a really weird change for all of us over the last 10 years who have been saying, I can list your house for top dollar, or I can get you a good deal on what you're buying, right? That's not your value right now. You can't get buyers a good deal, and anyone can get them a high price on their listing. So you have to go back to figuring out what your value proposition is outside of just money.
I would say too, the other thing that we're going to start seeing now, after builders have basically told us to pound sand, now they have a whole lot of ugly listings coming back in the market. I don't know if you guys have seen these things with like orange countertops and shit. And they can't sell them. So y'all seen them. Don't act like you haven't.
If you're in Colorado, like Orange Julius exploded on the counter.
Yeah.
Like that 70s show. That sounds like a really great.
Some folks pick some fun colors and they don't qualify, and now we have a CO on the house, but we can't sell it. Who's gonna help us?
The builder stuff is going to be affected by this employer thing.
Oh, Jesus, I can't even think about it. Yeah, but the builders.
My like buyer brain bulb just went off. Like, how many builders have buyers at these massive health organizations that we're talking about, and now all these like, this might be a really great opportunity to snag some of those buyers and shove them into new builds really quick.
Well, I work really super closely with the builder. We did $20,000 price reductions on all of our standing inventory yesterday. So the sales managers called a meeting for the salespeople at 5:00 yesterday afternoon. They gave us $20,000 price reductions on everything that's sitting in the MLS. And these are houses that won't deliver until November, December. And they're increasing the realtor co-op back up
What?
1
and
to
a half.
1.5%. No,
What?
no, up 1 to 1.5% more. So
back
like
to 2.9.
almost back to regular.
What they were
commissions.
paying us before they reduced.
And they're emailing me. I mean, like, hang on, like I can show
Oh
you.
yeah,
like
your
every
inbox will be full of inventory homes. 'Cause I know mine is.
every day, I'm getting these messages from builders going, "Hi, Lindsay, I have a 12,187 square foot corner lot for our estate collection with a 3-car garage. I also have quick move-ins. Please let me know if I can help your buyers." Right. So they're those cheating hoes coming back around. Right. So things are changing. I feel like agents as a whole kind of sometimes want to stick their head in the sand and
not
acknowledge that it's changing. The best thing that you can do is know that it's changing before anyone else. That's where you find the magic and the sweet sauce, right?
And lumber prices are down 30%.
Catherine says, so many listing agents do not have the best interest of the buyer when they represent both sides, since the listing is truly the client and the buyer is only a customer. God, this is a weird one. So dual agency is allowed in our state. We call it transaction brokering.
Well, and it's not like dual agency though. Like you can't.
No, it's neutral
really,
Switzerland.
like
It's Switzerland.
You can't be neutral Switzerland.
You're a glorified paper pusher. I mean,
Yeah.
let's just call it what it is here in Colorado. Like, I think it's the stupidest thing in the entire world because we aren't fiduciary to either side when we're moving to this transaction broker situation. And I agree with this statement. Like, I don't understand how you can ever be fiduciary to two parties if you are allowed to represent them. Like, you have the relationship with the seller.
Right.
I completely agree with this statement. And
I always tell my client when I'm disclosing it to them or like talking to them about that as an option, I always say, up until this point, I've been your coach. So I can tell you what to do, when to do it, and what I think is best from my experience. But if we enter into that dual agency or transaction broker relationship, I become a referee. So I can't advise either side now. I'm just watching you guys throw the ball back and forth and telling you not to hit each other.
Yeah.
I also got a complaint this week about that. My listing went under contract really fast, and an agent called my broker and complained that I must have double-sided the deal, and that's not what happened. I've had all kinds of complaints. That's
That's what I'm saying. That's why I'm feisty. It's a weird week.
Jess is living my life lately, huh?
Seen too many buyers come to me and ask for advice for what to do when they use the listing agent and feel like they aren't being honest with them. It's sad. Yeah.
I mean, there's a reason why you have a buyer's agent represent you, right?
I think that comes back to us to articulating to the general public, like what your role as a buyer's agent is. I think that people do believe that if they go directly to the listing agent, there is some value in using the listing agent when there really isn't. I don't think the seller saves any money in the way that our contracts are written.
Right.
The seller probably doesn't save a lot of money on commission.
Right.
And then the buyer certainly isn't being represented by somebody who is solely fiduciary to them. So
I also think it depends on the market though, because like right now I had one that sat for 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And we had 0 showings and 0 offers. And by some miracle of God, my client saw the Facebook ad that I had posted for my listing and decided they wanted to buy it. And they brought a great offer to my sellers. And I was able to work between 2 parties that I've known for a really long time. My sellers just moved out yesterday. They left them wine and his favorite beer in the fridge. And they left like this note that, with their house cleaner's name and their favorite restaurants in town. It's like this total love fest because
it was a good transaction.
it was a good transaction. The seller got what they needed and the buyer got what they needed.
But the
But
perception
that's
will
abnormal.
be, right. The perception will be from the buyer side, what I'm saving, I'm giving up in advocacy. And what do I need more of in the transaction?
And it also, the house was 1.5 years old,
Okay.
right? It still was under builder warranty. There's 0, issues that were going to come up on inspection. Like it was a very clean cut deal. So I think it also if I know that my listing is a total shit show, I'm not going to want a transaction broker in between
She'll send it
parties.
to me.
Yes. 100%. Annette says anything that you tell one side, you tell to the other and back out of coaching and then referee. Yep, exactly. Yeah. I will say if you're transaction brokering, it's like the dirtiest feeling in the world. Like, I feel like it keeps me up at night and you're thinking like, did I tell this party right? Did I do this right? You know, I feel like if you're not an experienced agent, don't do it.
The only time I've ever TV'd a deal was on my grandparents' house that I sold, and it was my uncle who was selling it, and he brought the buyer, and I was like, well, as long as everybody knows that I'm related to all parties and I'm going to cry when we close on this house, I guess we're fine.
You weren't even a fiduciary to yourself on that one.
I just cried the whole time.
What else is going on? Anything else that we want to talk about before
I don't think so.
we're out of here?
That's what's going on with us, don't you?
So I feel like general sentiments are, don't be surprised if weird lending guidelines start to come out of nowhere that affect your closings, whether you're on the buyer side or the seller side.
Take advantage of this little lull that we find ourselves in,
Mm-hmm.
and be very careful about what you say in Facebook groups.
Yeah, don't freak out and post a bunch of crazy shit on Facebook about the sky falling. And start calling some buyers and get them out there and at least try and capitalize on this opportunity that you have right now.
And know your statistics. So when you have to call your seller or they call you and they're panicking because you haven't sold in 2 days, be able to tell them that showings across the state are down 62%, or that 15% of all listings last week had a price reduction. I feel like agents get fired when they don't articulate that it's not an isolated situation, right? So like, if you're able to communicate to your clients that 62% of all traffic was down and 15% of all listings, regardless of price point, had a price reduction, that's more powerful than, you know, I'm freaking out because I'm just sitting here on the market and I'm the only listing that hasn't sold in 2 days.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I think we should talk about next week?
Hmm.
Jessica's adventures in buying a real estate property out of state, and
Oh, we were
Why?
supposed to talk about that today.
yeah, and why everybody hates real estate agents. This has been a wildly amazing, sad experience for me professionally and personally, and I really would love to chat about this
Yeah.
next week.
Okay. Next week, we're talking about,
Best practices.
yeah, and things agents do that cause the market to think that agents don't
Suck.
know what they're doing and that they suck. Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for hanging with us, guys. We love you. See you next week.